5 mysterious American cars that vanished without a trace. There are muscle cars out there that never got their chance to shine, not because they weren't powerful or well-engineered, but because someone behind closed doors made sure they'd never make it to the spotlight. Imagine coupes armed with fire-breathing Hemis, monster 440 engines, or 421 cubic-inch V8s machines so potent they could have flipped Detroit's performance ladder on its head. If only they had been released properly. But instead of being celebrated, these cars were silenced. No brochures, no ads, no official race programs, just rumors of shredded documents, prototypes that vanished, and private test runs no one dared to film. So here's the real question. Why were these beasts buried? What were the automakers afraid of? And more importantly, which one of these forgotten legends would you bring back if you had the chance? Drop your answers in the comments below. We want to hear your thoughts, your stories, and your picks. And hey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Muscle Car Masters. This is where forgotten muscle comes back to life. (1965) Pontiac 2+2. The 1965 Pontiac 2+2 was a full-size brute, equipped with a 421 cubic-inch V8 engine, delivering 356 horsepower and over 460 pound-feet of torque. And if you think a car that size would be sluggish, think again. In a real-world test by Car Life magazine that same year, the 2+2 hit 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6.4 seconds and ran the quarter mile in about 14.5 seconds. Sound familiar? That's right in the territory of the Pontiac GTO Tri-Power, a much lighter car, but not significantly faster. In fact, a properly configured 2+2 with the M21 close ratio, 4-speed, 342 to 1 rear gears, and tri-power carb setup could absolutely outrun Chevelle SS 396s, Galaxy 390s, and even Dodge Coronet 426 wedges at the drag strip. But instead of being remembered as a pioneering muscle luxury car, the 2+2 was shoved into the shadows. The big question is, why? Some recently leaked internal GM documents suggest Pontiac was afraid that a fully unleashed 2+2 would eat into GTO sales, the very model Pontiac was pushing as the youthful performance icon. The 2+2, with its upscale styling, leather interior, and smoother yet high-output engine, didn't quite fit the rebel speed image Pontiac crafted for the GTO. So they buried it, limiting performance info, avoiding public drag campaigns, and holding back the strongest engine options from mass-market release. There are even rumors from a retired Pontiac engineer that GM once had a 2+2 prototype fitted with the 428 HO engine, slated for 1967. But it was quietly shelved due to fears it would dilute the GTO brand. No official paperwork remains, but in car circles, it's one of those whispered about erased prototypes that history forgot. Had it launched a few years earlier before the GTO's storm, or stuck around into the era of gentleman muscle cars like the Grand Prix SJ or Buick GS Stage 1, the 2+2 could have carved out an entirely new category, a muscle car for the grown man. But history wasn't kind, and the Pontiac 2+2, a full-size powerhouse with class and claws, was locked away in the dark by the very company that created it. 1974. Buick Apollo GSX. Among the rarest Buick documents from the 1970s, there's a ghost of a car that barely made a ripple when it arrived and then disappeared almost without a trace. That car was the 1974 Buick Apollo GSX. No big ad campaigns, no dedicated brochures, no bold magazine spreads, just a quiet line item in a special dealer order sheet. GSX Performance Appearance Package for Buick Apollo. And just like that, A baby GSX was born compact, aggressive, and nearly erased from official history. The question is, why did Buick let such a promising muscle car fall into silence? The Apollo GSX came equipped with a 350 cubic inch V8, performance-tuned suspension, wide wheels, and signature GSX stripes. It carried the DNA of its big brother, the Skylark GSX, the fire-breathing legend that terrified rivals in the early 70s with its 455 Stage 1 power. But by 1974, the world had changed. Oil crises, new emissions laws, soaring insurance rates, the entire muscle car industry was crumbling. And in that chaos, the Apollo GSX was quietly killed before it had a real shot, not because it was weak, but because it came too late. But the story doesn't end there. Some old-school Buick insiders claim that a test version of the Apollo was once fitted with a 455 V8 for structural and drivetrain stress testing, a secret attempt to create a true compact GSX killer, aimed at taking down cars like the Maverick Grabber and Nova SS. Yet any trace of this project quickly vanished from GM's internal archives. A few engineers confirm that at least two 455-powered Apollo prototypes were tested in secret at Milford Proving Grounds, but they were never allowed to leave GM's research center. One theory says that if a compact Buick ever hit the market with a 455 Stage 1 under the hood, it could have disrupted the balance among GM's own divisions, especially Oldsmobile and Chevrolet. And so, the project was shut down for internal strategic reasons. Today, the officially released 1974 Apollo GSX, powered by the 350 cubic inch V8, is believed to have been produced for just 1 year, in extremely limited numbers, with estimates placing production below 1,200 units. Most buyers at the time didn't even realize they were purchasing something rare. There were no GSX badges, no loud branding, just a few subtle clues, striping, a bold hood treatment, and GSX-style wheels for the trained eye to catch. The Apollo GSX stands as a living relic from a chaotic time in American automotive history, a muscle car with real potential that was sacrificed, not because it wasn't good enough, but because it arrived at the wrong moment, with too much ambition for a world that no longer had room for the strong. If you ever come across a real, original Apollo GSX, just know you're looking at one of the last survivors of the muscle car collapse. (1969) Dodge Polara 500 Convertible. In the world of muscle cars, names like Charger, Challenger, and Roadrunner are often celebrated as Dodge's kings of speed. But hidden in the shadows was another beast, a full-size convertible monster, cloaked in luxury. A machine equipped with the fearsome 440 Magnum V8, the same engine built for real drag strip warriors. Its name? The 1969 Dodge Polara 500 Convertible. A car so rarely mentioned, many wonder today. Was it forgotten? On purpose? The Polara 500 Convertible was something of a paradox, part boulevard cruiser, part highway assassin. With over 375 horsepower from its 440 Magnum 5.8, paired with a torque flight transmission and a ground-shaking 480-plus pound-feet of torque, this nearly 2-ton giant could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 7 seconds, right up there with the lighter, leaner muscle cars of its time. But what made it truly unique wasn't just the performance, it was the disguise. Leather interior, power soft top, smooth suspension, all wrapped around a hidden brawler built for speed. Some insiders whisper that the Polara 500 was originally developed as a government-spec executive escape car, something fast, refined, and unassuming enough for officials or high-profile businessmen who needed to look sharp, but be ready to vanish in a hurry. An internal Dodge promo once referenced a Polara 500 prototype with heavy-duty brakes, highway-tuned suspension, and a limited slip rear axle. But those records disappeared after 1970, right around the time Chrysler began restructuring its full-size lineup. Some collectors even believe higher performance prototypes existed, featuring aggressive cams and dual snorkel intakes that were either locked away or quietly scrapped. Why? Possibly because the Polara 500 didn't fit the rising trend of lightweight, affordable muscle. Cars like the Dart GTS, Roadrunner, and Duster 340 were becoming Dodge's new poster children, quick, compact, and priced for the youth market. The Polara, with its upscale look and size, just didn't match the image. And so, it got no real marketing push, and quietly vanished from Dodge catalogs in the following years. Today, the 1969 Polara 500 Convertible is one of the last full-size drop-top muscle machines Dodge ever built. Only around 1,800 were made. Most were later dismissed as oversized old man cars, parted out or scrapped. But for those who know, this is the ultimate muscle yacht, a high-speed luxury cruiser from an era when power didn't have to come in a small package. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly why it had to be buried. (1968) AMC Ambassador SST. Some cars scream muscle the moment you lay eyes on them. And then, there are others. The ones that sit quietly in the right lane dressed in luxury, with leather seats, dual-zone climate control, and then, without warning, leave nothing but tire smoke and stunned expressions in their rearview mirrors. That's exactly what the 1968 AMC Ambassador SST was, a full-size luxury sedan with available 343 or 390 cubic inch V8s, pushing between 280 and 315 horsepower. A true luxury sleeper, born before the term even caught fire in the 1970s. But here's the strange part. Why was a car with full-size comfort and muscle car-level performance never mentioned in the Classic Muscle Car Hall of Fame? No speed ads? No quarter-mile bragging rights? No magazine coverage from the track? The answer lies in the dangerous market position this car represented. According to recently leaked AMC internal documents, the Ambassador SST was once considered for the NHRA stock eliminator class through a proposed SSTR variant featuring the high-output 390 engine and a retuned suspension setup. However, that project was abruptly scrapped, with no clear explanation. Former AMC engineers later revealed that at least 3 Ambassador prototypes were tested behind closed doors in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and reportedly beat out cars like the Chevelle SS396 and the Torino GT in early drag runs. But after 1969, the records vanished. One theory suggests that AMC leadership, constantly balancing between economy and performance, feared the Ambassador SST was simply too fast for customer expectations. It risked disrupting the family-friendly image AMC was relying on to stay afloat. Adding to the problem was AMC's limited marketing power. They never had the advertising firepower of the Big Three. Dodge had the Scat Pack. Ford had total performance. Pontiac had wide-track excitement. AMC, the Ambassador SST, got a few catalog lines. No TV spots, no showroom posters. If you wanted the 395/8 with a 4-speed manual, posy rear end, and dual exhaust delete option, you had to know what to ask for. It was practically a secret weapon for the true gearheads. Today, the Ambassador SST barely shows up at classic car events. And when it does, most people mistake it for just another grandpa sedan from the late 60s. But those who know, they know. This was one of the last great hidden heavyweights, a muscle car hiding behind a velvet curtain. And if you're ever lucky enough to get behind the wheel of one, you'll finally understand why AMC and maybe the whole industry chose to leave this legend buried. 1957. DeSoto Adventurer, the Golden Hemi Ghost. Some cars weren't built to last. They were built to challenge what people thought were limits. And the 1957 DeSoto Adventurer was one of them, a regal coupe wrapped in gold trim, powered by a snarling Hemi, dressed in high-grade luxury, yet doomed to become a forgotten blueprint that history tried to bury. The 57 Adventurer came equipped with a 345 cubic inch Hemi Vive 8, topped with dual 4-barrel carburetors, making fittingly 345 horsepower. That was a staggering number for 1957, outgunning both the Chevrolet Corvette Fuelie, which made 283 horsepower, and the Ford Thunderbird with just 245. And let's be clear, this was a mass production car, available right on dealership floors, not some factory hot rod or one-off build. Combined with monster torque and a push-button 3-speed torque flight automatic, the Adventurer wasn't just a luxury cruiser, it was a highway assassin in disguise. Visually, the Adventurer looked like a fusion of rocket ship and custom street rod. Gold anodized trim, matching wheels, exclusive two-tone leather interior, and a dashboard that felt more like an airplane cockpit than a car. So why, with all these features, does the Adventurer not appear on any classic muscle car lists? The answer lies in a quiet but brutal corporate decision: the intentional death of the DeSoto brand. By the late 1950s, Chrysler Corporation found its brand structure becoming overcrowded. Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth, Imperial, and DeSoto all competing for similar slices of the market. The company began developing a new 3-tier strategy, and despite its performance, innovation, and solid sales, DeSoto simply didn't fit. Leaked documents suggest that DeSoto engineers had developed a 1958 Adventurer prototype powered by the legendary 392 cubic inch Hemi, but the project was suddenly axed and the prototype was never seen again. No photos, no footage, only a few whispers from engineers who once worked in Highland Park. In 1961, Chrysler officially shut down the DeSoto brand. But among muscle car diehards, legends still circulate about that golden-trimmed Hemi coupe that quietly smoked Corvettes and Thunderbirds in underground Detroit drag races, only to be buried before it could disrupt Chrysler's internal product structure. The Adventurer didn't die because it was weak, it died because it was too good for a brand Chrysler no longer wanted to support. Today, finding a true, unmolested 1957 Adventurer is near impossible. Survivors are often engine-swapped, interiors redone, or transmissions changed out. But for those who know, this car wasn't just a fast coupe. It was a silenced statement, a muscle car before the term ever existed. And like all ghosts, the sound of its golden Hemi still haunts those who once heard it roar. What you've seen aren't just forgotten cars, they're victims of boardroom politics and erased histories. From the DeSoto Adventurer to the Apollo GSX, these machines were too bold, too early, or too dangerous to the brands that built them. But for those of us who remember the roar of big blocks and the cars our fathers once drove, they never died. Share this video, drop your story in the comments, and help us keep their legacy alive. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the untold truths of American muscle are just getting started here on Muscle Car Masters.